using illegal drugs. And then illegal drug use causes about 250,000 deaths per year. And then more national, 45% of high school students drank alcohol and 19% smoked marijuana in a 1-month period. And then 19.9 million Americans used illegal drugs prior to the survey, like at all. And then of 3,426 admissions of an illegal drug survey, 24.7% were younger than 18, and they had used illegal drugs. And then drug use is increasing in Minnesota, and it's ranked 28th among all age groups in the United States.
Okay, so addiction over time can change your brain function, and alcohol and tobacco are drugs that can lead to increase your overdose and past decades. And marijuana is addictive, and people go withdrawn whenever they want to quit it, so they will go back to marijuana because it's hard to stop. And drug use by adolescents, they feel pressure to doing so they lack supervision.
Now, before we go a lot into illegal drugs, you sort of need to know why people start taking drugs. Most of the time, people will do it because they want to fit in. They feel that they need to be accepted by their peers by taking drugs so they look cool. Other times, it could just be because it makes them feel good. They might be coping with a specific situation that causes them to turn to drugs because they don't know any better. And one that we've all heard of is peer pressure. Obviously, that sometimes we feel that our peers are pressuring us into situations and we just don't really know how to say no to them. And then of course, a lot of people will experiment. Most of the time, people will think that one time is just one time, it won't affect anything, but drugs are addictive, and one time probably won't just be one time.
Alright, so some warning signs of drug use are being withdrawn, so like more distant than one person like typically is, and then being depressed or hostile, so like a abrupt change in like mood or attitude, like if someone's acting like really different for no reason, and then deteriorating relationships, so like isolating themselves from people that they're usually really close with because they know that they're dealing with their own issues and don't want like to ask for help to anyone.
Okay, well, a reason that some people do drugs, like Carly said earlier, is because of peer pressure. And to avoid it, here are some ways just to do that. Just flat out say no. Like if someone asks if you want to try stuff, just say no to them. Another way is to bring up a topic that like distracts from using drugs. Just completely change the topic. Talk to someone who can support you, like a parent, a teacher, or a counselor, because they will always be there for you and they usually have experience. And then don't be like in a situation that can make you uncomfortable. If something's like scaring you, just leave the situation and find a better place for yourself.
Yes, there is a correlation between mental illness and drug use, if you didn't know that already. Mental illnesses can be caused because of drug use, such as stress, depression, and anxiety, which none of those are fun. And also many of the times people with mental illnesses will take drugs to cope with them, but as stated before, that's sort of bad because it just becomes this vicious cycle that increases those mental illnesses.
It's helpful to get help, like talk to a counselor about your feelings, or a parent, or maybe a teacher if you feel comfortable, or get support from friends or family. Healthier activities like sports, art, or other school activities. And read up, find some research about drugs, or just like learning class and stuff.
Here are some of the articles we've read. And then in this one, illegal drugs, summary killings are wrong. The CBCP, they found like that a lot of drug use leads to violent acts and a lot of killings. So pretty much what they wanted to do, what the article said, was to put out a law that punishes drug users just to decrease the amount of killings. And then this next article titled Marijuana, it just talks about how controversial the use of marijuana is, and it talks about whether or not it should be or should not be legal.
And then in this current event, it's called Cops That Are Deep Into Illegal Drugs. And basically, a drug lord confessed to selling crystal meth. And then he used cops to secure his safety to make sure that he wouldn't get caught. And that's how he got his drugs into jails and then controlled his operations that way. And then this one's titled Methamphetamine. It's an addictive drug. It causes euphoria, and it's a prescription that's used to treat certain conditions, very rarely by a doctor only. Users build up a tolerance to it, and so one dose usually isn't enough. And like I said before, it's super addictive, so that they want to keep coming back and getting more, and that's why it's become a worldwide issue.
Alright, so we asked students at Eastview whether or not that they thought drug use was common at Eastview, and so the purple is disagree, and as you can see, as kids get older, the purple percent gets smaller, and so as kids get older, I feel like they're exposed to more like different situations, and they can see how unfortunately common drug use really is. And we also asked Eastview students if they think that people harm themselves when they smoke, and on this one, the red is agree, and so as they get older, they tend to agree more. So even though that they do see that it's more common, they like do know the effects more as they get older. And then the Minnesota survey, this is the same question, do you think people harm themselves? For this one, 55% said little to no risk. So this just kind of shows that our school tends to like be more aware of the risks that come with smoking compared to Minnesota as a state.
And then we also asked in our survey how many people have used marijuana. The big blue area right here means that they never have, which is pretty good. And the rest are sort of like going from have do it once a month, once a week, twice a week, etc., all the way to daily. It's really good because about 50% haven't, but at the same time, about 50% of the students that we surveyed have. And we also noticed that males are more likely to do it repetitively. And then comparing that to the Minnesota student survey, you can see that not a lot of people have, which is good, but there's still 26.1% that have.
Then here are some of the organizations that we looked into, and the DFAF, if you go to the website, it literally just talks about the effects of drugs, what they are, and it's just like throwing facts at you, and just telling you exactly what everything is. This next organization, Recovery in Motion, this one is a website that you can visit if you do have a drug problem, and you are able to talk through things with professionals, and we're able to talk through things with other people who have issues with drugs as well, and you are able to get help online through that. And then the Positive Sobriety Institute is an institute that you can go to that offers therapy and helps you recover from drug abuse and also alcohol abuse as well, and also like mental illnesses such as depression.
So the apps that we had found was National Drug Campaign, which allows you to access information about drugs and services, and then the Alcohol FX. It's a research based on games that help you explore the brain science thing.
Alright, so our first interview is Officer Christopher Bennett, which is my dad. He has been on the Minneapolis Police Force for about 17 years. And we basically just asked him about his day-to-day run-ins, and he said that basically every single day he has a run-in with drugs, and it is constantly a problem. And then he also mentioned that someone is always selling it, buying it, using it, and or they are affected by someone who is caught up in it. And he also mentioned that he has witnessed it ruin so many people's lives, and that's why drugs are becoming a super sad epidemic.
The second person we interviewed is Sharon Ashney. She works at the juvenile delinquent, the detention center for teens. And she said it is very difficult for teens to go through the recovery process, and this is because they'll just do drugs again. That's what she said.
And then our third interview was Miss Hengel. She's an administrator here at ECU High School. And we basically asked her the same thing, day-to-day basics and what she goes through. And then we also asked her what happens to kids when they get in trouble or get caught using or get caught up in the drug situation. And she told us that they have to go to a certain amount of hours at a class, so basically kind of like a community service deal. And their parents also get involved and they have to sign things. And then one of her main concerns was the fact that she was so scared that kids were already getting into drugs at such a young age.
Alright, so for our social media, we made a Twitter, and this is a pretty old screenshot, so some of the numbers aren't the same as they are now. But we ended with 61 tweets total, 83 followers, and 264 following. And we tweeted mostly facts about illegal drugs that we thought teens wouldn't know, like facts we didn't know, and then the effects that teens also wouldn't know. So some of the more dangerous things that teens don't think is a super big deal, like alcohol, and all the bad things that can come from that. And then also we tweeted about organizations and other things you can do to get help if you're already involved with a drug problem or if you know somebody who is. Alright, and then here's our video. You just click on it or is it another tab?
Yeah, give that a try, and then we'll probably have to, I don't know, we'll see. Don't make it, if this works, don't make it full screen.